convictions back then. That was all I thought at first. As an engineer, I'd refine my craft. Taking the wheel of a bucket truck was my job. Because we were laying electrical wires, we ran behind schedule. We tried to get going faster. The decision we reached was, I'm going to stay up on the bucket. We're not going to go up and down, and you just be careful with the trees and navigate delicately. My riding buddy was more worried about getting an electric shock from me up there, so he kept looking up and ended up crashing into a tree. Slamming into the basket caused me to break every rib on my right side. Someone got me from the emergency room. It was problematic because my ribs weren't healing properly. As the nurse put it, "Here, if you need anything, push this button." During the time I waited in the emergency room, perched on the bed, struggled mightily to exhale. I considered pressing the button at one point. Convinced myself, no, I could handle this, because that's how we're supposed to be as South Bronx natives. This should be manageable for me. Typical of me. I do. I finally pushed the button after 45 minutes of waiting. Upon entering the room, the nurse took one look at me before pressing the icy boot. In my opinion, that was the initial stride towards demise, because my emotions were all over the place from suffocation. It went by slowly. Upon witnessing everyone hastily enter the room, my first response was one of shame. I felt nothing but shame as they swiftly undressed me. You know what? After going through such shame, I started to feel the safety of my loved ones and myself is at stake if this is accurate. If something is happening here, what would it be? I wasn't ready for this, that's why. Since you appear wholly unprepared, my question is, how are they going to manage? Large lump consequently developed. I thought about God. What if you help me overcome this obstacle? I intend to change the way I act. It is my intention to alter the text. It is my intention to better myself. It will be worthwhile. Assure you, during the time I waited, nothing happened. As if I had suspected all along that he wasn't sincere, a surge of anger surged through me. Knowing that there's nowhere for me to go when I die filled me with a repulsive sense of fear. I didn't have any strong convictions back then. I would simply be turned off like a light and become nothingness. I begged someone, desperately, to come and hold my hand while my anxiety levels soared. My dad would be ashamed if I begged for help. I thought to myself, and the belief took root. I should tough it out because strength is expected of me. My body stiffened up as I prepared for what was to come. There was a sound similar to rain on a tin roof when the intravenous drip started. This meant that there were a lot of splashes. I stared at the wallpaper so intently that I could discern its grain, an experience I will never forget. Am filled with an overpowering sense of wonder throughout. Deadly afraid, or maybe terrified is a better word. I looked over and saw a shadow standing still by the door. After that, I started to think about the chance of, after everything I've been through, maybe it's time to finally let go. Maybe this isn't something to be embarrassed about. Things are getting out of hand, but I'm not going to quit or give up. I'm simply accepting that I am powerless to stop them. Everything I do will only make it worse. My words were meant to reassure them, saying, it's all right. Demise is a possibility. The instant I spoke or thought those things, the shadow went. Whirling around the room, it touched everyone. That was all it did. As he reached out to touch my toe, I imagined his fingers running down it. As soon as it touched my toe, a wave of profound calm, relief, calmness, love, and relaxation swept over me. Also, my breathing problems were completely gone away. Thrilled beyond words. In addition, a pleasant breeze was brushing over my skin. Because, well, my hair is long. I also pictured it, as if it were blowing in the wind. Fantastic, I can't believe it. After that, I felt a slow lifting sensation that persisted until I reached the corner of the room. where the CPR team was heroically trying to save my life. As I looked over, I saw a doctor standing over me, vigorously pumping. On top of that, she looked quite nervous. When I looked in the mirror, my first thought was, that's me. Be that as it may, I have died. Then who am I, really, if that's who I am? I was surprised to see this as the first thought that came to mind. This voice next to me was attempting to tell me that my body is like an old car that has 5 million miles on it and can't be mended anymore. To that end, I must say goodbye to your corporeal form. The idea ran through my head. Wow. Just basically said it was all right to die. And now I'm standing here. You know, it's almost like I'm real. I am completely unaware of my current physical condition and how I look. Still, I know that I am not non-existent. Upon reflecting on what happened, I realize how strange it all is. It was the first time in my life that I felt who I really am, flaws and all. I will be forever grateful to that corporeal form for giving me the opportunity to do all that I did. Taking a deep breath and declaring, I am not flawed, is probably not something we do very often. I am exactly how I am expected to be, because self-criticism is inherent in the human condition. No matter how good we are, no one ever truly appreciates us. Subsequently, I started to remember these seemingly minor aspects of my everyday life. As you take a breath, you're greeted by a smile, kiss, or even something as simple as a child staring at you with such profound love in their eyes. Your children, how incredible and wild is that? This is what caused me to have an illogical reverence for both my former and current self. The voice then informed me, all right, it's time for us to move on. And we started walking after that. Since I never observed this presence, I am clueless as to what it was. She sounded too feminine. Then, as if we were advancing headfirst into a black hole, I saw a huge crack in the ground. We jumped right into it, and I feel like I'm going to fall. It was unnerving because I thought someone was pulling me down, and the descent felt like it went on forever. And as I landed, it froze for a while. Then she murmured something like, you got to keep going. And I located another one, dove in, and fell even more. On top of that, I could feel it pulling my possessions away from me. I was met with a kaleidoscope of vivid colors the moment I stepped down. Upon first glance, I was enchanted by the vibrant colors. It was my fear that after death, I would be met by no one and turned into nothing. Things that I couldn't understand before are finally beginning to make sense. It was as if the hue were a living, breathing entity trying to communicate with me. In addition, there appeared to be a great deal of conversation taking place, although I couldn't make out the specifics because there were so many voices speaking to me simultaneously. They split apart out of nowhere, and I viewed a gorgeous forest. Looking out over the mountains and seeing the dark, contrasty shadows produced by the clouds and the free-running herds of wild animals was very amazing to me as someone who was born and bred in New York City. It occurred to me after that I was essentially loitering. I looked up and saw the mountain, and all of a sudden, I knew I was flying through the air, taking in a spectacular panorama. Wow, I'm actually flying! I exclaimed joyfully. From out of nowhere, I overheard someone say, that's normal here. Considering my children was the one portion of my transition that was slightly uncomfortable. What will become of my children? A scream escaped me. Then a heavenly voice spoke to me and said, don't worry, you could see them from here. Upon first hearing it, I thought I had never heard anything so astonishing. In response, I said, oh my, this is incredible. My worries faded as I gracefully glided over the landscape below, taking in the stunning views and feeling the deep love that comes with such majestic silence. No words can adequately describe it. It's true, and you've probably heard it ad nauseum. But I kept going, and as I topped the mountains, I saw snow on top and said, wow. First and foremost, I was shocked. Following that, I looked up above the horizon and saw the sun, but it was as if I were looking through a telescope. The flares were glaringly obvious. I could soar in the air because the warm air was simply flowing to me, and I had the unmistakable feeling that the wind was giving birth nearby. I felt lifted by the warmth of the air for that reason. Adding to the mental clutter, I look down and see a stunning cove, beach, and a man buried in the water. As he stands knee-deep in the water, he has one child in his left hand and 5 in a line around him, all of whom are holding onto his right hand. My reaction was one of awe, and awestruck awe. Pardon me, but I need more time to research this. He turned around as I was only 10 or 15 feet away after I fell. The man was my dad. Seeing him was incredible, but the fact that my connection with my father was so strained was even more so. His angry, inebriated, and rambunctious behavior led to many intense arguments between us. Being the 7th of 8 children, I assumed the role of protector, which caused my mother and I to argue frequently. My father and I have never expressed our affection for one another in all the years that we have known him. His regulations were so strict that we couldn't even embrace. This is not how men behave. My level of. He held the view that humans lacked feelings and a soul. This is the perfect opportunity for me to finally speak to my dad about all the things I've wanted to say but never got the chance. Our heartfelt chat was profound, but I believe he felt the same way about me and could feel the love I had for him. Because of this, it reunited us in a peculiar way. It was there that our paths crossed and our souls became one. Regardless, he looks at me and says, "Listen, you have to go back. After everything that has happened, this is it." No, I don't think that's right. I gave him the appropriate response after glancing at him. For me, this is the ideal location. "No, you had better come back," he claims. "There is no way this is fit for you." In a rebellious tone, I tell him, "No, I want to stay." Soon after, I felt a tugging in my chest, but it was coming from behind me. I was being sucked in, and then I was back to my corporeal self. The attending physician giving cardiac resuscitation was surprised and bent her head to one side as I opened my eyes. Going back to my father after that, I was staring into his eyes in the same spot. In his opinion, the speaker simply lacks comprehension. "We should definitely go back. Pay attention. This is our strategy," he announced. Consequently, we started making arrangements for a divine deal. "Listen, I swear I'll come and get you when the time comes," he stated. As I stared at him, the thought crossed my mind. Wow, what an incredible deal. What if I declined? Once I accepted that, I went back. When you have your dying experience, you receive this connectivity. As you become aware of your interdependence with everything, a profound sense of unity envelops you. When you come back to your physical form, you may feel the detachment, a sense of independence, as if we were totally separate from the world, is what we get when we are embodied. Soothing, enlightening, and soothing. It's hard to put into words. It feels good to know that things are working out the way you expected them to. It doesn't matter how far away anything is. Everything is still heading in the